Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Well, it is the lecture number 26 of Indian Polity today. So, we are going to start our discussion today with respect to the local governments. We recently completed the central state relationships and there we discussed the federal structure of Indian Constitution. We discussed it in a very detailed way. We saw how are the powers distributed between the center and the state. Now, after the 74th and 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, new governance came in, and it was the local governance, or we can say local governments. It was there, but it was given the constitutional status. Now the question is this local governments, are they the federal structure of our constitution? Does they also contribute to the federal structure of the constitution? But here, with respect to this question, there are many opinions over it. Some say yes, it is the federal structure because it is well established in the constitution and there is the distribution of powers. But some say that it is not a federal structure, because when we will read the local governance, when we will discuss these local bodies, we will find out that they are not the federal. They don't have their own powers, but they are very much dependent on the mercy of the states. That we will understand. So today's discussion, it will revolve around the local governments. It will revolve around local governments. So before we'll start our discussion, I would like to take a minute to give you the brief introduction about our initiative, so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with us. From 2nd June 2024, 2nd June 2025, we started an initiative here by the name Target IAS 2026. Under this initiative, we every day discuss two videos, or we every day upload two videos. One in the morning session, where we discuss the current affairs of yours, so that your current affairs will be cleared. We discuss them in a very detailed way. We discuss them with respect to your prelims preparation, and then we derive the possible prelims questions, and we also discuss those articles with respect to your mains preparation, so that it will give the idea what to write in your mains exam if any related question would be asked there. So this is what we do in the first video. And in the evening session, we upload another video where we discuss your static syllabus. And here we started with Indian Polity, and right now we are discussing the local governance, which is lecture 26. Here we had promised you by the month of January 2026. By the month of January 2026, we will try to complete your full syllabus, whether related to your prelims preparation or whether related to your mains preparation. We will cover everything, but the exception is that we are not going to cover your optional subjects here and the language subjects. And one more thing, as we are delivering these lectures, every day we are preparing notes for you guys. These notes are very different than the conventional books you read, because after every topic which we discuss there, we frame the possible prelims questions, as well as, if possible, the possible mains questions too, so that it will give the exact idea which topics are important for you. Once we read the books, we often miss the important points in that, because our back in our mind, we don't feel that topic that much important for our preparation. But when we have these questions given after every topic, it remains in our mind that how this topic can be asked, how it can be relevant for your preparation. So we are making these notes in that way, so that it will give the proper idea about your exam and about your preparation. So if you want to get the service of our notes, you just have to mail us, and then you would be told to pay 200 rupees per subject. That is the only cost for these notes, which you will have to pay 200 rupees per subject. And if you want to get the service of it, please do mail us. But once we will complete the syllabus of each subject here, for example, right now Indian Polity, once we will complete the syllabus of Indian Polity, those notes would be available to you guys. So this is the initiative which we had started. If you want to be the part of it, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends, and also do write in the comments what else should we bring for you guys. Now, without any delay, let's start our discussion from about the local governance. So let us see how it evolved in India. If you would have read history, the local governance is something which is in our DNA, which is in the DNA of Indians. It has always been there. Maybe if you look at the Mauryan Empire, there you will see, there you will trace the local governance. So it was always there. It is always in the history. But with respect to the modern history, with respect to the post constitution, how it evolved, that we have to focus on here, because it is how it will be important for your preparation. So basically, it was the idea of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, he was a great believer of local governance. He said that he was very much, he very much understood the problems of the people, and he had the solution for that. And what he said, that this first one of his quote is that this world provides for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. So his major aim, major understanding of the world was based on the local governance, was based on the professions which could be carried out at the local areas or at the village levels, the professions which could be carried out at village levels. So he has always believed in it. His belief in it was very strong. His base was at Warda. His base was there, and there he started a campaign, where he said that villages should be self-sufficient. At Warda, he started a campaign called Villages Should Be Self-Sufficient. How they can be self-sufficient? If they can carry out their duties, if they can manage their land according to their requirements. If they know what their requirements are, they start to work on that, then only the villages can be self-sufficient. And once the villages are self-sufficient, we knew that that time our population was majorly the rural. The most Indian population was at that time the majorly rural, in rural areas. So if the villages were self-sufficient, it eventually will lead to the country being self-sufficient. So in this regard, a program was started at Warda, which is called as Community Development Program. What is it called as? Community Development Program. So this Community Development Program, once it was started there, it had shown a great success there. It showed a great success there. The people were earning good, they had self-sufficiency there, and it showed very great success. Once we got the independence, the central government, what they thought, they analyzed the Warda case, and they saw that the community development program which the Mahatma Gandhi had started there, it is showing some great results. Why not we implement it throughout the country? And what they did, they started to implement it throughout the country. And this community development program was implemented throughout the country by another program which is called as National Extension Service. Through the National Extension Service, it was extended in 1952 or 53. It was extended through the National Extension Service throughout the country. So this was extended. The community development program, it was extended through the National Extension Service in 1952 and 1953 throughout the country. So about this, once it was extended, then a committee was created. The committee was created to assess these programs which they had implemented in 1952 and 1953. The committee was created, and the committee was headed by Balwant Rai Ji Mehta, and the name of the committee itself is the Balwant Rai Ji Mehta. This committee was created in which year? In 1958. And what was the aim of this committee? It would, study these National Extension Service, and it will see what is the impact of the community development programs throughout the country. So it was its aim. And it is the Balwant Rai Ji committee. The Balwant Rai Ji committee, it gave its reports, and those reports were very much negative in a way, nature towards these committees, towards these, for example, towards the community development program. So let us see what were the key results of this committee which was set up in 1958. Let's have a look at it. What did it say? It said that this national extension program, it is bound to fail. What it said? This national extension program is bound to fail. Why it is bound to fail? Because according to him, every village in our country, we have the structure. If we look at the federal structure, at the top we have the center, then we have the states, then we have the local bodies. So this national extension program, it was started by whom? It was started by center to look into the community development program, to look into the community development programs of the villages. So it was a top down approach. What was it? It was a top down approach. And the Balwant Raji committee, it questioned that how could the center know what are the demands of the villages, and he questioned that it should be opposite. It should be the bottom up approach. It should be the bottom up approach. It should be the villages. They should decide what are their needs, what are their what they are lacking, what should they implement. It is the villages which should ask for these things. It is these villages, they know what are their needs and they should ask for these things, not the center should decide. And second thing, it should be the states which should get more involved in it rather than the center, because center cannot know, they don't know what are the demands of the villages. So it was established that it is bound to be failed, and it should be what it should be. There should be the bottom up approach. It should give relevance to these villages. It should give some power to these villages so that they can decide on what are the issues they are facing and they can solve those problems. So it in a way recommended, let's go for the democratic decentralization. What did it recommend? It recommended, let's go for democratic decentralization, that we should go for further decentralization. At the top we have the center, then we have the decentralization of the states, then we have the local bodies. It recommended that let's go for the democratic decentralization. And also if we look at the DPSPs, we have article 40 there, that it is the duty of the state to organize village panchayats and give powers to them. So why not we go for the democratic decentralization? Why not we bring up the rural local self governments? Why not we bring up the rural local self government? So it was the duty, it was recommended that let's go for the democratic decentralization. But there was an issue here. What was the issue? If we look at the local governance, and if we look at the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution, we had discussed that recently in the center-state relations. We find out that the local governance, it is in the state list. It is in the state list. So it would be very much unconstitutional if the center is going to make these panchayati raj institutes or local, or there we call it as a rural local self governments. It would be very much unconstitutional. So this authority, it was given to what? It must be given to the states to create them. So it is dependent on the mercy of the states, whether they want to create them or not. Then few more things they should have, these local bodies, if they have to, if we need them, if we need the proper implementation, if we need to solve their issues, we need to give them some powers, we need to provide some funds to them, we should give them some authorities. For example, it should have an independent funding. They should be able to create their own funds through the taxation, and further we will discuss how that came into existence. Similarly, they should have their own officers who will discuss on what are the policies which are to be implemented. Then they should have their own functions. They will decide the functions, what are the functions of these rural local bodies, and the officers will implement those functions. So these were established. What was recommended in it? First, it should have the independent funding. Second, they should have the officers, and third, it should have a function. So in this way, it was recommended by Balwant Rai Ji committee. So let's recap. Till now what we discussed. Till now we discussed that the local bodies, it is something which is very much inherent in India's governance. But we have to read, we have to understand it through the perspective of the modern history, through the perspective of the post-constitution, through the perspective of the present scenario. So for that, we have to look into how it started. First, we took the example of the Varda, which was the dwelling, where the Mahatma Gandhi worked so hard. Mahatma Gandhi has started a program which is called as Community Development Program. And when we see when we do the case study of Varda, it has shown a great success there. So once the we got the independence, it was believed that it was the center started to implement this program, the community development program, through the National Extension Service in 1953 throughout the country. And after that, in 1958, a committee was formed, which is Balwant Rai Ji Mehta Committee. And the aim, the focus of this committee was to study whether this is going to be the success or it is going to be a failure. The national extension service, is it going to be the success or it is going to be the failure? Then the Balwant Rai Ji committee, Mehta committee, it recommend that it is bound to become failure, because first of all, it is the center who is deciding what are the demands of the villagers. So it is a top down approach, and it is bound to become failure. So for that, if you want it to be the success, there should be the bottom up approach. Second, there should be the decentralization, there should be the further decentralization, democratic decentralization, and it is under the scope of the state. So let the states form these local bodies, and let them have the independence, let them have the functionaries, which is the officers, and let them have the function. So here we established the local government. So we first established the local government. It did not have the constitutional backing, but it was established. So let's see what this local government is now. Let's try to understand it, but for that, first let me rub it. About this topic, it is very much relevant for your prelims preparation, but still there are few important discussions which can be asked in your mains exam. Whether it is federal, a question about it can be asked in the mains. Whether it is success, we had brought up the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment acts, or the success or not. Many questions from this can be asked with respect to your mains exam, but mostly it is related to your prelims preparation. So what are these local bodies? What is this local government? It is of two types. Here we have in the rural areas and in the urban areas. So what are the articles which deal with it? It is Article 243 to Article 243. Oh, you do need to read these articles, not important, but what is important for you to understand the concept of it. So this is important to understand the concept of it, not to memorize these articles. Only remember what article is associated with it. Maximum it can be asked in the exam. So when there is local body, and it was mostly it is three-tier structure. What it is? It is three-tier structure. One at the district level, one at the block level, and then at the lowest at the village level. So it is the three-tier structure, and people should elect them. The members who are part of this three-tier structure, the people should elect them. Whatever people decide, it should be implemented. Power should be given to the district collector to implement the policies. Then there would be the officers who will implement the policies. Then we discussed how it is the part of the 7th schedule, and states have the authority to do it. Now what happened after the Raj Mehta committee, after the Balwant Rai Mehta committee, and the report, they decided to go for the decentralization. Now the government wanted that there should be the decentralization, and they knew that it is under the 7th schedule. At that time, till 2014, there was a council named as National Development Council. What is this National Development Council? Not relevant right now, because from 2014 onwards it is nowhere. But what was it? It was the part of the planning commission. Whatever the planning commission would recommend, it would discuss that, it would study that. So in this, it was the federal body of the planning commission. In it, who were the members? PM was the member. Union ministers were the members of it. The CMs of the states and the administrators of the UTs were the members of it. It was the federal part of the finance commission. It would discuss that. So in 1959, what happened? In 1959, NDC accept, it was this report about the decentralization of the democracy. It was sent to the NDC, and NDC accepted it, but with certain modifications. Let us see what were those certain modifications with which the NDC accepted it. In 1959, on October 2, 1959, those were implemented. So let's see what was that. What were those modifications? The modification was that it should be the duty of it should not be compulsory on the state that they should go for it, but states, if they choose, they should go for it. It is up to the states. It is the discretionary power of the state whether to go for the decentralization, whether to go for the local governments or not. It would be there. It would be up to the states. They will decide their elections. They will decide their powers. They will decide their funding. They will decide whatever they want to do. So on October 2, finally on October 2, 1959, the first Panchayati Raj Institute was established in Rajasthan. On October 2, 1959, the first Panchayati Raj Institute was established in Rajasthan at Nagaur. It was first established. Then further it was established throughout the country in Andhra Pradesh and other states. But there was one issue. As it was under the discretion of the states, so there was no uniformity in it. At some places it would have been the two-tier system. At some places it would be the three-tier system. At some places it would be the four-tier system. So there was no uniformity in it. And because of this, even though it was accepted, NDC accepted it, states started to implement it. When NDC accepts, we discussed what is the composition of NDC. It is the federal body. It consists of PM, union ministers, CMs of all the states, and administratives from the UTs. So it was bound to be accepted by all the states, and they started to implement it, but in their own way. There was no uniformity in it till now. What we are discussing, it had not got the constitutional status. So please remember that. Please follow my words here one by one. So till now it had not got the constitutional status. It was just a recommendation, and it was accepted, but there was no uniformity in it. And because of it, as everything was under the control of states, they would go for the elections, and when they would want, they would not go for the elections. When they would want, they would dissolve the Panchayati Raj Institutes. If they want, they will add the Panchayati Raj Institutes. It was totally up to their discretion. So because of this, there were many problems. What were the problems? First, no transfer of power. One of the major issue with this was, if we look at the states, who are the legislature, they are MLAs and they are MLCs. Why would they transfer their power to some unknown individuals? This was one of the issue which was highlighted. There was no transfer of the power. There was no transfer of the powers, and also sometimes it was created and at the same time it was abolished, and there were delayed elections, and these bodies, they were starved for the funds. No funds were given to them because they were totally on the mercy of the states. So these were the various issues. But certainly when there are it was very much true that issues were there, but some states, they proved to be best in it. For example, we have the Karnataka, we have West Bengal, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Their Panchayati Raj management was very much efficient. They had efficiently implemented it, and most credit goes to the MLAs from those particular states, because they were very much Democrats. They understood how much important it is to have the decentralization there. So many states accepted it and many states rejected it. So many states, they created more fuss with respect to this. So with respect to this, as the government was watching it, there are various issues coming up with respect to the local governments. So they set up different committees which are not important for your preparation. Please remember that. So those committees have different works to do. For example, they have to discuss about the elections, they have to discuss about the statistics, they have to discuss about the funds, they also discussed about the constitutional mandate, what should be the constitutional mandate. But in the same time, when those committees were formed, they were giving their results. At the same time, the country saw a huge turmoil in 1977. What was that? Not in 1970, in 1975. What was that? We were in the emergency. National emergency was imposed by Shrimati Indira Gandhi. When the national emergency was imposed, after that, Shrimati Indira Gandhi's government fell, and once then the Janata Party came into rule. When the Janata Party came into rule, they created a commission called Ashok Mehta Committee. So this Ashok Mehta Committee will discuss what are the issues faced by the local governments, and it will try to give the results. When the Ashok Mehta Committee discussed the issues, it saw that why are there so much burden on two-tier? Why should we have three-tier system, four-tier system? Let us simplify it. don't, why should we complicate it? Let's just have two-tier system. What? Just have the two-tier system at Zilla Parishad and the Mandal Panchayat. One is Zilla Parishad and Mandal Panchayat. It should be the two-tier system. Second, why not in the elections of the panchayats? Why not we let the political parties to get involved there? They set up their own candidate in there, and once the government is of any particular political party and at the state level, and it does not, it will not impact them that if they will share their powers with the Panchayati Raj institutes. So it was allowed that the political parties could contest elections in these Panchayati Raj institutes. Then it was also highlighted that let's go for the reservation of the seats for SCs and STs on the basis of their population. Whatever their population is, proportion of the population is, on that basis let's have their SCs and the reservation for SCs and STs. So with respect to this report, some were accepted, some states accepted that, like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal. Some accepted, some did not implement it, but still the problems were there, because it did not have the constitutional mandate. When anything does not have the constitutional mandate, it is bound to have certain problems. And with local bodies, when you have the strong center, when you have the strong state legislatures, why would they share their powers? It was very much bound to have this issue. Then after the Janata Party, we saw that assassination of Indira Gandhi. Then came the Rajiv Gandhi. He became the PM. Rajiv Gandhi, he became PM. He discussed this with one of his associate, who was the best lawyer at that time. He said, why these local governments are much failures? What is the issue with that? That associate, he gave advice to the Rajiv Gandhi that, the biggest mistake in it is that it does not enjoy the constitutional status. So if you want to get rid of these problems, why not you give it the constitutional status? If you will give it the constitutional status, then the states will be bound to accept that. There would be no hesitation in that. So what he did, there would be uniformity in it. You will define what the local governments would look like, and every state will have to accept that. There would be the uniformity in it. So the constitutional states, for that the bill was passed in the Lok Sabha. When the bill reached the Rajya Sabha did not like it and it rejected it. It said that how dare you pass such bill, you try to interfere into the matters of the state. So Rajya Sabha rejected it, and finally the bill lapsed. After that, after the assassination of the Rajiv Gandhi, VP Singh came in. He became the PM. VP Singh became the PM. What he did, he also wanted to go for the to give the constitutional status, but what he did was different. He first approached the National Development Council, the same council which we discussed. He approached the VP Singh. He approached National Development Council, and he discussed with them that I want to give the constitutional status to the local governments. The National Development Council, it in a way accepted it, said, yeah, why not, go for it, but make it very much clear. Don't come into our domain. Don't come into the domain of the states. When it is the power of the, eventually it comes under the state list. So it should be the state who should make laws with respect to that. And eventually it was bound to happen. But unfortunately, the VP Singh government fell. VP Singh government fell. Once the VP Singh government fell, then came the PV Narasimha Rao. When PV Narasimha Rao came in, PV Narasimha Rao, so it was during his time he addressed NDC again. He said them, I heard that you are ready to accept the constitutional status of the local governments. What do you think if I would want to pass such bill? NDC said, we are almost ready to accept that. There is no issue. So PV Narasimha Rao, he brought two amendment acts, which is 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. So it can become important for you who was the PM at that time, how it started. So 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act were brought in 1992. It gave the constitutional status to the Panchayati Raj institutes. The compromise was reached between the states, and it said that it was the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, it was very much clear that it is the states, it is to set up the local bodies, it is the states who will set up them through the law formed by this state legislature. It would be the state legislature who will form the law with respect to their understanding. They will form the law with respect to the local bodies. But one thing was very much clear. Under the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it was a model for them, for the state governments, how they should frame laws with respect to the local governments. So 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, it had two provisions. One were the compulsory provisions which the states have to follow, and the second one was the optional or voluntary provisions. So let's try to find out what were those compulsory provisions and voluntary provisions, and let's try to understand it with respect to prelims now. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, it had the compulsory provisions, it had the voluntary provisions, and it gave this right to the states that please make a law and form the local government there. But once you are forming such local government, as you had accepted it, now once you will form, we have this we have these compulsory provisions. This should be there. You cannot make a local government, you cannot make a panchayati raj institute without these. This should be there. But about the voluntary, if you want, you can accept it, and if you don't want, you cannot accept it. It is up to you. So what were the compulsory? First compulsory provision was to establish Gram Sabha. To establish Gram Sabha. So what is this Gram Sabha? In a nutshell, all the voters who are going to vote for these panchayats, who are going to vote for them, they are the part of the Gram Sabha. So if I will define it as all the people in a village will become part of Gram Sabha if they are above, will become part of Gram Sabha if they are above 18 years. If they are in a position to vote, they will be part of the Gram Sabha, and then the state will have to give some powers. The state will decide some powers for the state legislature will decide some powers for the Gram Sabha. So it was the first recommendation, and it was the compulsory recommendation. What? To establish a Gram Sabha. What is the Gram Sabha? It would consist of the people from the village who are above 18 and who can vote, who will choose who are going to be their panchayats, who are going to be their Gram Panchayats, Panchayati Samiti and Zilla Parishad. They will decide that. So this is the Gram Sabha, first compulsory provision. Second compulsory provision, what is that? The second compulsory provision was create a three-tier system. Create a three-tier system. What was it? To create a three-tier system at panchayat, at village, intermediate and the district level. So at the village level, at the intermediate level, and at the district level. So let us see what were those. A panchayat was at the village. Panchayat at the village was called the Gram Panchayat. Panchayat at the block was called the Panchayat Samiti, and Panchayat at the district level was called as Zilla Parishad. And all these members were elected members. All these were the elected. This is the elected body of it. And who is going to elect it? It is the Gram Sabha. So what is the difference between a Gram Sabha and a Gram Panchayat? Gram Sabha consists of all the people in a village who are above 18 who are going to vote, and the Gram Panchayat are those people who are elected. So this is the difference between the two. We often get confused between these terms. So it was also the compulsory. First to establish a Gram Sabha. Second, create a three-tier system. Then third compulsory provision was to ensure seats reserved for SCs and STs in proportion to their population. Ensure seats are reserved for SCs and STs in proportion to their population. And the fourth important provision, compulsory provision, was that for women there should be the representation for women. 1/3 members should be the woman in every panchayat. 1/3 members reservation for the woman. So these were the four important provisions. One more important thing I missed, I guess, that three-tier system was for the normal villages, for the normal governance. But suppose there was a place which has very less population, which has population less than 20 lakh. For them, they can skip the intermediate, the panchayat samiti block level, and they can just have the two-tier system. So these were the compulsory provisions of it. Now, about the elections, another problem we saw that it was about the elections. There was issue with respect to elections. There were, even though we had the Panchayati Raj Institute set up through various committees, which were accepted by many states, but the major issue was of the elections. So let's see how it got sorted out. It made it compulsory that there should be elections after every 5 years, and if suppose suppose if the duration of panchayat is if the duration of panchayat for 5 years is not completed, then what will happen? Within 6 months, within 6 months there should be the election. So within 6 months, if dissolved earlier, if the duration of panchayat if the panchayat is dissolved earlier, then within 6 months it should be elected again. Then there are certain qualifications which are very much compulsory. What are those compulsory qualifications? Whoever is qualified to be the MLA is qualified to be the member to be the member of the panchayat, is qualified to be the member of gram panchayat or zilla panchayat smiti or zilla parishad. Whoever is qualified to be the member of legislative assembly. But there is certain deviation in the to become an MLA. Your age should be 25 years, but to be the member of the panchayat, your age should be 21 years or above. So this is the slight delay. And also there are certain, then further the constitution gives authority to the states. They can add further qualifications and disqualifications. For example, Haryana government, they brought a very unique qualification. What is that? For the Haryana government, that if you had not qualified 10th in general public, in general category, if you had not qualified the 10th exam, then you cannot be the panchayat, you cannot be the punch, you cannot be the member. Then for the woman, in the general category, if they had not qualified the 8th, then they cannot be the punch. So these were certain qualifications created by the Haryana government. So it can be the hypocrisy here. You can see that for the legislative assembly there is no qualification based on the education, but in the panchayati Raj institutes they had created this qualification. So in a way we can say it is the hypocrisy of the state governments, but still it is up to their domain. It is the domain up to the state government to create the qualification whatever they want to bring in. So it is up to them. Now education qualifications are there, and certainly there are certain other qualifications which are added. For example, qualifications were added: if you don't have the working toilet at home, then you cannot be elected as a panchayat. So certain other qualifications were also added. Now what about the powers and the functions? You know that no institute can run if that does not have the autonomy. No institute can run if they does not have the funds. No institute can run if they does not have the functionaries. So this is the one of the issue. This is one of the problematic problematic thing in the Panchayati Raj institutes, which is their powers and the functions. Their powers and functions. What is that? They are very much dependent on the mercy of their of the state. As the constitution says, the state legislature may decide whatever funds they can choose for themselves, whatever funds they can, they can, whatever the state government may authorize. So this is one of the issue. It is totally dependent on the mercy of the state government, and it also depends upon what? It also depends upon what state government, what are the funds, what are the grants given to them. So it is financial dependence is very much huge. Financial dependence is very much huge on the state government, and at the same time the State Finance Commission was created. State Finance Commission was created, which would advise the state government how much funds should be delivered to the Panchayati Raj institutes, and this advice is not binding on the state government. Please remember that this advice is not binding on the state government. So in a way it has huge dependence on the state government as well as the central government with respect to the grants and aids. So whatever state government allows them, they can levy taxes. It is up to them. It is up to the state government whatever they allows them. So for that we have the 11th schedule, which specifies the functions of the Panchayati Raj institutes. So that is not relevant. if you want to read them, then I will, I will definitely add those things in my notes. Please go through that. If you don't want to get access to my notes, they would be available in whatever polity book you are reading. They would be available there, but those are least important for you. Just remember, it is the 11th schedule which contains the functions of the powers of the what are the items available to them on which they can function. It is the 11th schedule which deals with the Panchayati Raj institutes. So this is about the Panchayati Raj institutes. Now the question may come to your mind, sir, we discussed the 5th schedule, we discussed the 6th schedule, they have some sort of autonomy. What about them? Do the Panchayati Raj institutes apply to the 5th schedule's tribals and 6th schedule tribals? The answer to this is yes and no. Why yes? Because it applies to the 5th schedule tribals with the extension. For example, we have the Panchayat Extension and Schedule Areas Act, PSA Act. Through the PSA Act, this applies to the 5th schedule. For the 5th schedule areas, we have the PSA Act. It applies to them. For the 6th schedule areas, it does not apply to them. So please remember that. This question may also be asked in the exam. So this is about the Panchayati Raj institutes. So with this, I hope you had understood the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, how we adopted this, what was the situation, what were the conditions going on when we started to discuss the giving them the constitutional status, what was the necessity of that. So this is what is important. Who was the PM of the country when this 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act was brought in. So these are important facts. And what is the structure of what were the important provisions, compulsory provisions, what are those? That was important. Now let's move to the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which is the municipalities, urban governance. Let's move towards the urban governance. It is little drier, almost it is similar to it is qualification, disqualification. It is very much similar to the Panchayati Raj institutes, but it has certain little modification in it. Let's try to understand it one by one. Let's try to find out what it is. We have 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, 74th, which deals with the urban governance. So to understand the urban governance, first let's try to understand what city is. What is city? Different people have different definitions for that, but the most accepted is that if any place the means of economy is not the agriculture, if where predominantly, for example, if in any place the means of economy is not agriculture, then that place would be called as city. The predominant economic activity is non-agriculture. Predominant economic activity is non-agriculture. That place is called as city. So now the question was with respect to which are these cities. They are in area, they are larger than the panchayats. So how you are going to control them, how you are going to govern them, it definitely would have been very much different. So there are, by the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, there are three types in it. First one is municipal corporation. Municipal corporation for the bigger cities like Delhi, Mumbai. Second, we have the municipal council. Municipal council for the smaller cities. And then we have the Nagar Panchayats. Panchayats, which is a buffer zone between a Panchayat and ST, which is it is a kind of a buffer zone. So these are the three, this is the three-tier system which is to be followed by the states. So these are the urban local bodies under the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. But are they only the urban local bodies which we have? No, we have other more urban local bodies. For example, we have the cantonment boards you would have heard about in the areas where armies live. We have the port trusts, we have township. They are other local bodies, but they are beyond 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. So what does the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act say? It says the compulsory provision, let's create the wards, and from every ward there would be one representation. And if a person is having a special knowledge or experience in municipal administration, he can also be the member, but he does not have the authority to vote. And also MLAs, MLCs, and MLAs, MPs, they can also be the member of the municipal corporation or the urban local body, but they don't have the right to vote. Similarly, what are the qualifications? qualification is same as MLA, but with slight difference, which is respect to his age. 21 years old is capable of being the member. Disqualification, it is prescribed by the state, depends upon the state. And conduct of election, who will conduct the election? It is the State Election Commission. So please remember that State Election Commission, and it is the State Election Commission which conducts the election for the panchayats too. So State Election Commission, this will conduct the election for the panchayats and urban areas, and it is the one member body which is headed by the state election commissioner. Then we also have the State Finance Commission, which would recommend the state government to allocate some funds to them, and this recommendation is not binding on the state. So then after we have the district planning committee, which consists of both, there are certain districts in which there is panchayati control and there is municipality control. So for them to collaborate both panchayati and municipalities, for that we have the district planning committee, and we have the metropolitan planning committee, where the population is more than 1 lakh. So, and the functions, what are the functions attributed to the urban local bodies? It is given under what? It is given under the 12th schedule. Now about the municipal corporation, for the municipal corporation to run, we have 3 functions. First, there should be the council. Its aim is to legislate and deliberate and deliberative area. It will have the area, and its aim is to legislate. So laws and policies are made for the corporation by the council, and it may be headed by a mayor assigned by, and which is assisted by the deputy mayor too, and the term of the mayor may be 1 year, and it depends upon various states. So first we have the council, then we have the standing committees which will look into the different issues. For example, standing committee for health, for education and sanitation. Then we have the commissioner. He will implement the policies, he will implement the laws which are formed by the council. He will implement those laws. And who is this commissioner? It is this senior IAS officer. He is senior IAS officer appointed by whom? State government. So it is eventually this, even though we have this, but it is dependent on the mercy of they can form the laws, they can make the laws, they can see what are the issues, but it is on the mercy of the state government finally whether they would implement it or not. Similarly, in municipality, there is a council elected by the people, headed by the president or or chairman or vice president or the deputy chairman. It is this policy is implemented by the CEO, which is chief executive officer, which is a state civil servant, and this is again appointed by the state government. Similarly, we have nagar panchayats, and the structure is same. So this is the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. It is for the urban areas, and there are local governments given there, which the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act talks about. It talks about the municipal corporation, it talks about the municipality, it talks about the nagar panchayats. So it talks about municipal council, municipal corporation, and nagar panchayats. This you have to remember, and the powers which are assigned to them by the state are given under the 12th schedule. If you want to read them, go through the any book which you are studying for that, and if you want to trust my notes, then you can go for them. For mine, you can consult my notes. They are very much this would be very much available there. So these are the municipalities. But as I told you, we don't have only these municipalities, we don't have only these local governance in the urban areas. We have beyond 74th Constitutional Amendment Act too. We have other local bodies too. So let us see what are those other local bodies. Let's try to discuss them one by one. For example, we have the Notified Area Committee. It is important for you to note a question about it can be asked in the exam, whether the Notified Area Committee comes under the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. So for that, you should know what comes under 74th Constitutional Amendment Act or not. So what are the extra 74th Constitutional Amendment Act urban bodies? Let's try to note them. First, we have the Notified Area Committee. Notified Area Committee. In this Notified Area Committee, there would be an area under the state which would be which the governor will highlight, and this this would be considered important by the governor, and it would be for this, for the for the development of this area, the government will nominate people, and uh, who will take care of this area. So this is the notified area committee. It would be the governor who would notify which area is notified area committee, which is important, which has the potential to grow, and it is the government, they will nominate the people fully. It would be fully nominated, and they will take care of it. Then second, we discussed about the containment boards. In the normal times, the armies have their own containment boards. They live in those bush areas for themselves, where they develop, and in that containment boards there are certain civilian areas too, where the civilians too live. For them, it will be established by the this containment board. It would be established by the parliament, to take care of the civilian areas, and they will have to take care of it. This will be established by the parliament. Then similarly, we have town area committee. Third, we have the town area committee. Town area committee, it is entirely elected, or it would be entirely nominated, or it would be the mix of the both. So with respect to this, we have the 12th schedule, where we give powers to the urban local bodies, urban local governments. So under this 12th schedule, some powers may be given to them, or none power may be given to them, or every power may be given to them. It is totally different. So in the town area committee, the members may be fully elected, may be fully nominated, or it is the mix of both. Then we have the township committee. Township, it is for example, there are factories in rural areas, far-flung rural areas, and there are workers, they are living there. So with respect to this, they will start living, they will develop their own place, they will start living there. So it would be controlled fully by the bureaucracy. Township committee, it is more associated with the factories. Then we have the port trusts, which is near the ports, where the civilian population would be there, and it would be under the control of the center. So these are the various extra 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, the urban local bodies. So with this, we complete our 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. What are important points in it? We discussed them. With respect to the panchayats, what does the Constitution say? What are the compulsory provisions which they have to follow? What are the voluntary provisions which the state have? But biggest thing which you would have noticed, it is upon the mercy of the state. So now the question. Now let's divert our debate with respect to the mains preparation. The first question which may come to your mind after discussing this, we saw that how much they are dependent, even though we have these authorities. Is this the democratic decentralization which we did through the Constitutional Amendment 73rd and 74? Is it the federal future? The first question, is it the federal future? When we discussed the center-state relations, and we saw that in the I remember that I made the statement, in the normal circumstances we are very much federal. We respect that. Both the center and the state, they get their powers from the Constitution. They get their powers from the Constitution, and they are very much independent. But there are certain ways in which we are not fully federal. But once we look at the local governance, how in the world can we call it is the federal feature? Even though it is established by the government, it is established by the Constitution. If the aim of the Constitution was to establish the three-tier system to local government, we had established it. We have the three-tier system at the local level. But is it on its own? Is it fully autonomous? No, it is on the mercy of what? It is on the mercy of the state government. It is this is on the mercy of state government for the funds, for the functions, for the powers. It is totally on the mercy of the state government. So definitely we cannot call it a federal feature of our Constitution. Please remember that. Please note this down. There may be confusion. There are certain teachers or certain books which highlight that it is the federal feature. If I can remember, even the NCET books say that it is the federal feature, but in reality it is not a federal feature, because of how, by the definition of federalism, we understand that no, it is not a federal feature. Now the second question which may come to your mind, we established this. Was it a success? Was it a success? Has it really given the results what we thought it would give? Has it really given those results? this question we have to analyze. We have to look at the parameters. On what parameters we can say it is a success. For example, recently Operation Sindoor happened, and the PM Narendra Modi said that it was a successful operation. On what parameters it was a successful operation? There are parameters for that. For example, with Operation Sindoor, what was our motive? Our motive was to deter Pakistan, that if you are going to do that, we are going to destroy you. We are going to attack in your territory, and we in a way attacked their sites there. So if it was the aim, if it is the parameter, then definitely it was a Operation Sindoor was the success. But we also suffered some losses, maybe with respect to our air defense, maybe with respect to our air control. We also suffered some diplomatically we were not recognized. So parameters define whether it was a successful, whether it was not a successful. So coming back to our topic, if we look at the implementation of the 74th and 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, and if we'll see if it was a success, then why it was a success. Let us see. First, if the objective was to create a three-tier system, if the objective was to create a three-tier system, we had created it, successfully created it. If the objective was to empower women, we had empowered women. There is 1/3 representation for the women there. They are making, they are very much involved in it. If the objective was to give the political, to go for the political reservation for the SCs and STs, we had done it. If the objective was, what was the major objective of it? What kind of democracy we have? We have the representative democracy, we have the independent democracy, we have the, indirect democracy, where we elect our representatives and they participate in it. But if we look at Gram Sabha, we have the, we have the representation of everyone there. So definitely, if the motive was to change it from the representative to the participative democracy, then we had achieved it. We had changed it from the from representative to the participative democracy. Then we have achieved it. Then it was a success. But is it, if these are the parameters? Now let's see what are the other parameters on which we can say it is not a success. So let's see what are the ways in which we can say that it has been the failure. What was the aim of the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act? To create the local governments. And for the creation of the local governments, you need to have, they need to have the self-autonomy. They need to have the self-autonomy. They should have some powers. Should have some functionaries. They should be having funds. They should be having functions, and they should be having functionaries. Are we able? Did the Constitution create it? No. It is totally dependent on the mercy of the state. So we failed to establish the rural local self-government because they are not able to do so, because they are highly dependent on the state government. We have the commissioners, they are from state government. The state legislature may transfer the funds, they may not transfer the funds. It is up to them. In 2000, there was a CAG report about UP from 2015 to 2020. If we will see the performance, only one item out of 18 items were transferred to the these local governments. And what was that item? It was the it was the burial grounds and the cremation ghats. So this is how much representation states had given to them. These bodies, they are not able to create their funds. They are begging for the funds. They are begging for the funds. They are begging. They did not have their own authority to create to levy the taxes. Even if once the state government will allow them, then only they can create the taxes. And also, what are other, for example, now let's go back to the good points of it. It gave reservation to SCs and STs. In a way, once it gave reservation to them, it gave the the voice to them. It gave voice to them. And if we will see, if we will go through the studies, studies were done over it, that it gave reservation to women too. So the studies were done. If once these powers are given to women, they are able to implement them with respect to their demands. For example, if the water is given to them, if the pipelines are given to them, they had made it, they had done wonders in it. They had made these water connections available to their homes, and they had done wonders with respect to that. It has given voice to the SCs and STs. But if we look at the real scenario, then there is a case study with respect to with respect to Tamil Nadu, I guess, where there are SCs and STs. They have the reservation. They can be the sarpanchs also. But once the ordinary member from the higher caste comes into, the sarpanch will stand from his chair and he will let him stay there. So there are certain behavioral changes. There are certain the mentality which it could not eradicate. Similarly, with respect to the punch women, it is said that this with respect to the punch women, those woman reservation, they stay at their home. It is their husbands who act as the sarpanch. Similarly, we have the MPLAD scheme, which is the members of parliament local area development scheme. So under this scheme, the money would be granted to MLA, and he will distribute this money with respect to the work. And what would be the work? It would be the sanitation, it would be the education, it would be the schools and all that. So the MLAs will enter into the domain. What was the essential function of the MLA? The essential function of the MLA was to make the laws, but they are entering into the domain of this self-government, local governments. So definitely, if we will look at the broader picture of it, the local governments had been a failure. We were not able to get what it was planned to. We believed that we can give reservation to women, but women are still staying at home. It is their husbands who are working as the sarpanchs. We believed that we will uplift the SCs and STs, but we are seeing their behavior. They are they are very much marginalized in it, even though they are the sarpanchs. But once the higher authority, higher caste person enters, he might be below him. He might be working under him, but he will stand for him and give space to him. So this is something which we had not sorted. Similarly, we have the State Finance Commission, which would recommend the states to allocate funds to these panchayats and municipalities. But this recommendation is not what? It is not binding on the states. So definitely these urban local bodies have certain issues. And then we saw that also in the voluntary functions which they should adopt. For example, give reservation to OBCs, it is optional. So we are not seeing that much given to them. But with respect to that, we have to remember that there is an important verdict of the Supreme Court, which is Vikas Kishan Rao Gawati versus the state of Maharashtra, where SC said that if you want to provide reservation to OBCs in the urban local bodies, then you will have to look at three important conditions. First, you have to set up the commission which will inquire the how much backward the committee is. Then you have to decide what should be their representation, and this representation should not pass the 50% of the 50% cap which is given under the Indra Sahni judgment. So with this, this is all what you need to know about the municipalities, about the local bodies, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, and with respect to the 11th schedule, the functions of them, the powers granted to them, and the 12th schedule, that would be available in my notes. If you want to get access to them, they would be available, or if you want to read it from anywhere, it is up to you. And that is not that important for you. For the understanding sake, you just need to know what they are. So with this, we are completing our today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends. And trust me, I hope you would subscribe the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.